My name is Maline Archer. I'm 33 years old, and for most of my life, I believed the worst thing kindness could do was make people lazy around you. I thought you helped someone once, maybe twice, and they'd start expecting it. I didn't realize there was another level entirely, one where kindness becomes proof against you, where generosity turns into a story someone else tells about you, where your own home can be reframed as a crime scene, and you're cast as the villain simply for opening the door. I'm telling you this because people love to talk about kindness like it's harmless. Just help, they say. Just be a good person. I was, and it almost cost me my home, my reputation, and my sense of safety. 3 months before everything exploded, there was Jenna's birthday party. It was one of those gatherings that pretends to be casual but still has a theme no one admits out loud. Fairy lights strung unevenly across the living room. Music just loud enough that you have to lean in close to talk. A table crowded with half-eaten snacks and plastic cups people keep losing track of. Everyone was smiling in that slightly performative way people do when they don't want to be alone but don't want to admit it either. I didn't go because I felt social. I went because Jenna had been my friend since college, and because my therapist had been gently, but persistently, telling me I needed to stop hiding inside my condo every weekend. That condo mattered to me more than I ever told anyone. It had been my grandfather's. He'd left it to me after a long illness that stretched my grief thin and taught me what silence really sounded like. No mortgage, no landlord, no one knocking on the door asking questions. 3 bedrooms that felt like evidence of survival. One was mine. One was my home office. The third stayed empty most of the time, clean, quiet, unused. A room that waited without asking. That night, in Jenna's crowded kitchen, I met Ethan Caldwell. He didn't announce himself. He didn't dominate the room. He slid into conversations like he belonged there already, smiling easily, listening just enough to make people feel interesting. When he talked to me, he didn't glance over my shoulder for someone more exciting. He stayed. "What do you do?" he asked, leaning against the counter, holding a drink he'd barely touched. "I'm a compliance analyst," I said, which is a boring way of saying I make sure companies follow rules. He smiled. "Rules are underrated. Everyone hates them until they need protection." That made me pause. People rarely said things like that. We talked longer than I expected. About horror movies and bad first jobs. About the weird comfort of diners at midnight. About Jenna's deeply questionable dating history. The conversation flowed easily, too easily. I didn't notice how close he was standing until his arm brushed mine. I didn't question the way he laughed a little harder at my jokes than necessary. It all felt natural, easy, safe. When he asked for my number, I didn't hesitate. When he texted me the next morning, "Had fun last night. Want to grab coffee?" I said yes. We were officially dating within a week. Fast, I know, but loneliness has a way of disguising itself as momentum. Ethan was attentive without being overwhelming. He remembered details, how I liked my coffee, which songs I always skipped, how I hated surprise plans. He sent small check-in messages during the day, voice notes at night about nothing important. It felt intimate in a way that snuck up on me. 3 weeks in, we were sitting on my couch with takeout containers spread across the coffee table. Thai food, the smell of basil and garlic filling the room. We'd been laughing about something stupid when Ethan suddenly went quiet. Not angry quiet, careful quiet. I noticed his leg bouncing, his chopsticks hovering mid-air. "What's wrong?" I asked. He sighed, like someone bracing for rejection. "My living situation's kind of imploding." "Like roommate drama?" I asked. "My lease is ending," he said. "My roommate's moving in with his girlfriend, and I can't afford a place on my own right now." He tried to shrug it off, but the tension showed in his jaw. "That's rough," I said. "Yeah." He stared at the food. "Everything's so expensive, and moving back with my parents would be bad." "How far away are they?" 2 hours. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It's complicated." The word complicated hung in the air like a warning label. Then he said it, softly, almost like a confession. "I'm just tired, Maline. I feel like I'm always one step behind." Something about that cracked open the part of me that hates seeing people stranded, the part that remembers what it felt like to lose stability all at once. And my condo had space. A room that wasn't being used. A door that stayed closed. You could stay here for a bit, I said, before I'd fully thought it through. Ethan looked up fast. Are you serious? Temporarily, I added. In the guest room, just until you figure something out. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. He took my hand, eyes soft, grateful. Thank you, he said. I swear, just a month. 2 at most. I believed him. Because he sounded sincere. Because he kissed my knuckles like I'd saved him. Because he didn't push. Because I thought boundaries spoken aloud were enough. That was my first mistake. He finally turned to face me. There was no anger on his face. No fear. Just something flat and decided. Like a switch had been flipped behind his eyes. I'm protecting myself, he said. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a declaration. As if he were the reasonable one in the room. We didn't argue after that. There was nothing left to argue about. The truth had already been twisted into something unrecognizable, and I could feel the ground shifting under my feet. The conversation didn't end loudly. It ended quietly, and somehow, that made it worse. 15 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Not aggressive, not frantic, controlled, professional. My stomach dropped before I even reached the handle. When I opened the door, 2 police officers stood in the hallway, a man and a woman. Their posture was neutral, faces composed, eyes observant, the kind of calm that doesn't comfort you, it evaluates you. Ma'am, the female officer said evenly, we received a call about a domestic situation. Before I could speak, Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself half a step closer to them than to me. His shoulders slumped. His voice wavered in a way that sounded practiced but convincing. I'm scared, he said. She's trying to make me leave, and I don't have anywhere to go. The room tilted. I watched him perform vulnerability in my living room, my furniture, my walls, my space, and realized how carefully he had rehearsed this moment. This wasn't panic. This was strategy. They separated us immediately. Ethan was guided into the living room. I was led into the kitchen. The male officer stood across from me, notebook already open, pen poised. Can you tell me what's going on? He asked. I forced myself to breathe slowly. In, out, ground yourself. 3 months ago, I said, choosing each word carefully, I let my boyfriend stay in my guest room temporarily. This condo belongs to me. I inherited it. He was never added to any lease. There was no agreement for him to move in permanently. The officer nodded. Writing. He stopped looking for housing. I continued. Then he quit his job. When I told him he needed to leave, he threatened to accuse me of controlling him unless I added him to the property. The officer's pen paused for a fraction of a second. Do you have proof that you own the property? He asked. Yes, I said quickly. The deed, tax records, everything. And anything in writing about the arrangement? Yes, text messages. I handed him my phone with hands that shook despite my effort to steady them. He scrolled slowly, methodically, reading every word. There it was, black and white, the promise, the boundary. Ethan, my lease ends in 2 weeks, and I'm panicking. Me, you can stay in my guest room while you figure things out, just temporary. Ethan, thank you, a month or 2 tops, I promise. The officer looked up at me. Has there been any physical violence tonight? No, I said, none at all. Any threats? Yes, I said quietly. He said he would lie to the police. The officer's eyebrows lifted slightly. Did anyone witness that? No, but I started recording after. You recorded him? Yes, I said. This is a one-party consent state. He considered that, then nodded. Can I hear it? I played the recording. Ethan's voice filled the kitchen, unmistakable and calm. Let's see what the police think. Then the shift, the sudden fragility, the rehearsed fear as he made the call. The officer's jaw tightened. He handed my phone back. Please stay here, he said. I was left alone with the hum of the refrigerator and the echo of my own heartbeat. My hands trembled so violently I had to press them flat against the counter. 10 minutes passed, then another 5. Each second stretched longer than the last. When both officers returned, the female officer spoke first. We've reviewed the situation, She said, "Your ex-boyfriend has acknowledged that you own the property and that there was never a formal lease." I nodded, my stomach still clenched. However, the male officer added, "Making a false emergency call is a crime. Based on the evidence, there was no immediate danger." I swallowed hard. "So, what happens now?" "We're issuing him a citation for misuse of emergency services," he said, "and he has 72 hours to collect his belongings and vacate." My knees nearly buckled with relief. Ethan snapped. "That's not fair," he shouted. "I live here." "You were a temporary guest," the female officer said firmly. "You need to leave tonight. You can return with an escort to retrieve your belongings." Ethan stormed toward the door, grabbing his jacket, his face contorted with rage. "This isn't over," he hissed at me. The officer stepped between us. "Sir, leave." The door slammed so hard the frame rattled. When the condo went quiet, the silence felt deafening. I slid down against the counter and cried until my chest ached and my throat burned. I thought it was over. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived from a law firm. A legal eviction, emotional distress, financial damages, $15,000. I stood at the same kitchen counter, the one he'd rearranged without asking, and read the letter again and again until the words stopped making sense. According to him, I had isolated him, forced him out, abused my financial power, destroyed his livelihood. Shared home. That word again. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Calm voice, efficient questions. When I finished explaining everything, there was a pause. Then he laughed, not cruelly, just incredulously. "This is nonsense," he said. "He doesn't have a case." Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. We responded with everything: texts, recordings, police reports, property records, building footage, and we filed a counterclaim. Within a week, Ethan's lawyer withdrew. I thought that would stop him. It didn't. When legal pressure failed, he went public. Friends started messaging me, carefully, hesitantly. I opened social media and found his posts, vague, emotional, crafted to invite sympathy without naming me. A controlling girlfriend, financial manipulation, homelessness. The comments were full of validation. People I knew believed him. The cease and desist worked. The posts came down. But doubt doesn't disappear that easily. Then, 1 month later, my phone rang. "Ms. Archer," the officer said, "Ethan Caldwell has been arrested." "For what?" I whispered. "He did the same thing to someone else." That's when it finally made sense. This wasn't about me. I was just one chapter. When more victims came forward, the truth was undeniable. Same phrases, same tactics, same escalation. 7 women, 1 pattern. Fraud, extortion, false reporting. At trial, his charm was gone. Patterns don't lie. Guilty. 3 years in prison, 5 years probation. When the judge said, "You weaponized compassion," I felt something finally settle inside me. I still live in my condo. The guest room is gone. It's my space now. I still believe in kindness. But kindness without boundaries isn't generosity. It's access. And that door is closed for good.